Thank you for joining us again today. I'm John Stottleman, a designer in the landscape department at Bachman's, and we're back at the project that we showed you earlier this week where we had our crew out starting to install the plantings. We've now completed the project, got a fresh coat of mulch down, and we're going to go through some of the after project details of how the process works with us. Talk a little bit about some of the goals that we were trying to achieve again and how the project tries to meet that. So the biggest thing after a project is no project is going to become what we really want it to become without maintenance. Now, whether that's you do it yourself or you work with us or our garden maintenance crews to do that, there are things that any landscape is going to need to become successful. We want to make sure that you have the tools to do that, so we have resources on our websites or even just directly contacting me as a designer or other people on our staff to help you to ensure that the project turns into what your goals really are. So in terms of maintenance on a project, most of our clients say, I want the least maintenance possible. But there really isn't a great way to design a landscaping and to say you can have no maintenance. It's just getting the maintenance to a level that you feel comfortable with. And the biggest thing with a new project really becomes watering of the plants. Plants need a good deep watering on a regular basis to avoid being stressed and having dieback, and giving them a chance to get those roots established so in future years that plant does what we all have the goals for it. So watering is really the key part, especially with the heat we've had these last couple weeks. And based on soil type, we give every client recommendations on how much water, how often they should be watering, and also based on the types of plants they are. This being a large deciduous tree needs about a 3 to 4 gallon watering about every 2 to 3 days in most cases. When we hit 85, 90 degrees, that might even need to be every day. You'll want to do that watering for almost a month after the new planting and then start to scale it back. And really, on any new project, fall watering is key. But one of the things that our crews did when they installed this tree, and you can somewhat see it in the video, I hope, but we've got a little bit of a soil donut around the outside edge of the mulch here, and that's going to allow us, when we turn this water on, to basically fill up that space and not have the watering running off. It's getting it into that root zone of where this tree is. Right now, there are no roots more than about 2 feet away from the tree, or even less than that. And so we want to get that water direct to that. So a soft stream of water, getting it about that 3 to 4 gallon amount on every watering. We're on this sandy site here, so this project is going to take quite a bit of water on a pretty regular basis because it doesn't hold a lot of water in the soil. But you don't want to over the plants, so the best thing to do in terms of determining when to water is actually to pull the mulch back a little bit and feel the soil underneath there. If you feel that that soil still has good moisture to it, you're going to hold off on watering, because overwatering can be as detrimental to a plant as underwatering. So another important piece to any landscaping is to have mulch. Now, in some cases we'll use a rock mulch, some will use a wood mulch. It depends on really what your desires are and your goals for the project. In doing the design, if you want wood mulch, we may be able to use a little different palette of plants than if you want rock mulch. Not all plants are going to do as well in a rock mulch. In this project, we've got areas where there are wood mulch and others that are rock mulch. It's going to give a little bit of a different level of maintenance in those areas where there's rock mulch, because you'll have a weed barrier underneath the rock. In the wood mulch areas, we don't recommend weed barrier underneath it. It actually leads to problems in the future for your plants, as well as the potential of when you go to pull weeds out with fabric in there, that you'll be pulling all that fabric up. So with wood mulch projects, what we recommend is a good clean site to start with, and then using a good 3 to 4 inch thickness of mulch. You'll need to keep that mulch up over time, typically adding about an inch or two every 1 to 2 years, depending on how the mulch breaks down on your project. Different types of mulch are going to break down at different rates, and different sun exposures and moistures also impact that too. So we can talk to you about the project and your goals and what mulch material is best for you. And one of the things that the crew always does when they're installing the projects is make sure that the mulch isn't piled up on the stems or on the branches of the plants. So we actually have mulch really around the outside drip line of this plant, this boxwood here, but not much buried underneath there. So if you have mulch piling up on the stems of a tree, a shrub, even perennials, you can lead to some rot problems there. So we do want to keep the mulch pulled slightly back from the base of the plant and in a good thickness level on the outside of that. So we've got our thickness of mulch out here. It's going to help with soil insulation, moisture control, as well as to help keep those weeds down. Now, there's no way to keep a mulch bed free of weeds. Products like Preen or other pre-emergent can be used as long as you're not trying to establish seeds in those beds. Those products will be just fine for your new plantings. And then there will be some weeding. Again, it's an inevitable part of having a landscape to take care of. We have the services to offer to help you if that's something that you need, or if you can come out about every 3 weeks or so and do a good weeding. That usually keeps most landscapings in check for the summer, keep things looking good. So one of the other big pieces of caring for your new landscaping is going to be fertilizing. And every time we install new plantings, we're going to use the amended soils that we talked about in the past video, as well as slow release fertilizer. That's going to give those plants a good ability to start, slowly adds their nutrients in as they're growing and requiring that in the soils. In any project, whether it's a new landscape or an established landscape, we don't want to use heavy amounts of fertilizer after about midsummer. Now, the small amount of slow release fertilizer that we use when we're installing projects, we will install right through the projects that we install late in October and early even into November. But high doses of fertilizer really should be concentrated to use early in the season when you want to get that big flush out of the plants, to allow them to have that new growth to mature a little bit before we get these hot days of summer, as well as making sure that that growth is all matured and hardened off before we get to the late fall and the cool days of the winter. Lastly, that we're going to talk about with maintenance is going to be pruning. Now, most new landscapes don't need a lot of pruning in the first 2-3 years, but there might be a few times when you'll have dead branches or things like that. You just want to clean up. Maybe it's an oddball branch that just grows and your plant looks out of whack. Snipping 1 or 2 branches off on a plant really at any point in most plants is going to be okay. You do need to be a little bit cautious with some plants that are more disease susceptible and things like that, but that oddball single snip isn't a big deal. It's really the main pruning of an entire plant that becomes more plant specific. Now, we have care guides on our website that teach this, and we get these to all of our clients so that they know how to take care of their projects after we've installed them, so we get that final goal achievement that they're looking for. But things like a boxwood here, really, you're pruning in the month of June. About mid-June is a great time to prune for those. After 4th of July, and almost all plants in the landscape is a no-no for pruning. So you want to focus your pruning based on flowering for some plants, but really also based on seasonal growth. We don't want to encourage new growth late in the summer into the fall. We want to encourage the growth at the right time and do the pruning that matches up best with the plants so that you get the best flowering out of them. That's where those care guides come into play, because we don't expect you to memorize all these things, but we're always here as a resource, and we have written information on our website that we'll have available for you to make sure that you get those final goals achieved.
I hope you enjoyed this look into a typical Bachman's landscaping project, and I want to thank John and the customer for sharing this, and I hope you enjoyed all the wonderful information that we gave out today. Bachman's Landscape and Garden Services has a talented group of designers and installers waiting to help you with your next project. Whether you have a front yard project or a full landscape remodel, we have a talented group that is willing to help you all throughout the whole process. To learn more about all of our services that we provide, whether it's landscape design or garden maintenance or garden coaching, please visit us at bachmanslandscaping.com.